small nation against a global superpower, an underdog against the reigning champion.
The year is 480 BCE. The Mediterranean world trembles under the shadow of an empire. Persia, vast and unyielding, stretches from the valleys of India to the deserts of Egypt. It is the largest empire the world has ever known, and at its head stands Xerxes, son of Darius, ruler of millions. His father once sought to bring Greece to heel, but at Marathon, a small band of Athenians humiliated the Persian war machine. Xerxes will not forgive. He will not forget. Across the Aegean, Greece is no empire. It is a patchwork quilt of city-states, independent, proud, and often at each other's throats. Athens, with its radical democracy, thrives on debate and naval power. Sparta, austere and disciplined, builds its society around the art of war. Corinth, Thebes, and dozens more each guard their independence jealously. To unite them is like asking rival brothers to share a crown. And yet, as the Persian tide rises, the Greeks face a choice: stand together or be swept away. The stakes are not merely land or tribute, they are cultural survival. For Persia, conquest is routine. For Greece, resistance is identity. Imagine, for a moment, a modern parallel, a handful of small nations, divided by politics and rivalry, suddenly confronted by a superpower with resources beyond imagination. The imbalance is staggering. Yet history teaches us that numbers alone do not decide destiny. The camera lingers on the sea, waves crashing against rocky shores. The narrator's voice lowers. This is the story of Thermopylae, a story not of victory, but of defiance. A story where the few stood against the many, and in their sacrifice changed the course of the world. To understand Thermopylae, we must first understand Sparta. Unlike Athens, where philosophy and art flourished, Sparta was a society forged in iron. From the moment a Spartan child was born, their life was measured against the needs of the state. Weak infants were abandoned. Strong ones were molded into warriors. At the age of 7, boys entered the agoge, the brutal training system that stripped away comfort and instilled discipline. They learned to endure hunger, pain, and fear. They learned to fight as one, to place the phalanx above the individual. A Spartan was not raised to live for himself, but to die for his city. Women, too, were part of this martial culture. Spartan mothers were said to hand their sons their shields with the words, "With it or on it. Return victorious or return dead." There was no third option. At the heart of this society stood King Leonidas. Unlike many monarchs, Leonidas was not distant from his people. He had endured the same training, the same hardships. He was a warrior king, respected not for luxury, but for shared sacrifice. When Xerxes' army threatened Greece, Leonidas was chosen to lead a small force to delay the Persians. But why only 300 Spartans? The answer lies in religion. Sparta was bound by the sacred festival of Carneia, during which the army could not march in full. Yet Leonidas knew that a token force, if placed wisely, could buy precious time. And so, with 300 of his best warriors, men who had sons to carry on their names, Leonidas marched north. They were not alone. Allies from Thespiae, Thebes, and other cities joined them, swelling the force to around 7,000. Still, against the might of Persia, it was a drop in the ocean. But the Spartans did not measure worth in numbers. They measured it in resolve. The narration cuts between Spartan drills and Persian preparations, contrasting the simplicity of Spartan armor with the glittering abundance of Persia. The voiceover concludes, "Sparta's gift to Greece was not wealth, nor art, nor philosophy. It was the unbreakable will to stand when all others would fall."
If Sparta was forged in iron, Persia was woven in silk and gold. Xerxes commanded an empire of dazzling diversity. From the mountains of Afghanistan came hardy horsemen. From Egypt, chariots and archers. From Babylon, engineers and builders. Each subject people brought its own weapons, its own traditions, its own gods. The Persian army was not merely an army, it was a moving city. Ancient sources speak of millions, though modern historians suggest closer to 120,000. Even at the lower estimate, it was a force unlike any Greece had ever faced. The logistics alone were staggering. Imagine feeding and supplying a city the size of modern Los Angeles and then moving it across mountains and seas. Xerxes' engineers built pontoon bridges across the Hellespont, linking Asia to Europe. They carved canals through peninsulas to allow ships safe passage. The empire's might was not just in numbers, but in organization. At the heart of this army were the Immortals, Persia's elite guard. 10,000 strong, they were so named because their ranks were always kept full. When one fell, another stepped forward. Clad in scale armor, armed with bows and spears, they were the pride of Xerxes' host. And yet, for all its grandeur, the Persian army carried hidden weaknesses. Its strength lay in open plains, where cavalry could maneuver and archers could unleash storms of arrows. In narrow passes, its numbers became a hindrance. The very diversity that gave it reach also bred fragility. Different languages, different loyalties, different fighting styles. The narrator paints a vivid image. Picture a caravan so vast that when it drank from rivers, the rivers ran dry. Picture a host so immense that when it marched, the earth itself seemed to tremble. This was the force that descended upon Greece, and against it, Leonidas would place his 300. The scene closes with a wide shot, Persian banners fluttering in the wind, stretching to the horizon. The voiceover whispers, "An empire moved like a storm, but even storms can be broken by mountains." The Greeks knew they could not meet Persia in open battle. To do so would be suicide. But Greece was a land of mountains and narrow valleys, where geography could be turned into a weapon. And so, the Hellenic League chose Thermopylae, the hot gates. Thermopylae was no ordinary pass. On one side, the cliffs of Mount Kalidromos rose steep and unyielding. On the other, the Malian Gulf lapped against the shore. At its narrowest, the pass was scarcely wide enough for a single chariot. Here, the vast Persian host would be forced to funnel into a bottleneck, their numbers rendered useless. Leonidas and his men arrived first, joined by allies from Thespe, Thebes, and other cities. In total, around 7,000 men stood ready. They built a wall across the narrowest point, reinforcing ancient fortifications. Behind it, they prepared to make their stand. The narrator compares it to a chessboard. The Persians had more pieces, but the Greeks controlled the critical square. In modern terms, it was like a small team holding a choke point in a video game, forcing a massive enemy to attack in waves. The Greeks knew they could not win outright. Their mission was to delay, to buy time for the rest of Greece to rally. Every hour they held Thermopylae was an hour Athens could prepare its fleet, an hour Sparta could muster more troops, an hour freedom could survive. As the sun set over the mountains, the Greeks lit their campfires. Across the Gulf, Persian fires stretched to the horizon, countless and unending. The contrast was stark.
a handful of defenders against an empire. Yet in the narrow gates, the balance of power shifted. The narrator's voice lowers. Here, at Thermopylae, the fate of Greece would be decided, not by numbers, but by courage, not by empire, but by resolve.
The first day of battle dawned with the thunder of Persian drums. Xerxes, confident in his overwhelming numbers, ordered his men forward. The Medes and Scythians led the charge, rushing into the narrow pass. But they met the Greek phalanx. Imagine a living wall, shields interlocked, spears thrusting in perfect rhythm. Each man protected the one beside him, each line reinforcing the next. The Persians hurled themselves against it, but the wall did not break. The narrator describes the clash in vivid detail, the clang of bronze on iron, the cries of the wounded, the relentless push and counter-push. The Greeks fought in rotation, fresh men stepping forward as the weary fell back. The Persians, by contrast, were forced into the bottleneck, their numbers useless, their formations broken. Wave after wave crashed against the phalanx, and wave after wave was repelled. The ground grew slick with blood. The Persians expected the Greeks to falter, but instead they pressed forward, driving their enemies back into the narrow pass. Frustrated, Xerxes sent in his elite, the Immortals. 10,000 strong, they were the pride of Persia. But even they could not break the wall of spears. The Greeks fought with precision, their discipline honed by years of training. The Immortals bled like any other men. By nightfall, the Persians had gained nothing. Thousands lay dead, while the Greeks stood firm. Around their campfires, the defenders spoke not of fear, but of pride. They had faced the might of Persia and held their ground. The narrator concludes, "On the first day at Thermopylae, the world learned a lesson. Courage and discipline can hold back even the greatest of empires."
The second day began much like the first. Xerxes, unwilling to accept defeat, ordered fresh assaults. Again the Persians surged into the pass. Again the Greeks met them with unyielding resolve. The fighting was brutal, relentless. Arrows rained down, but the Greeks raised their shields and advanced. Spears thrust, swords slashed, men fell, but the line held. The Persians, forced into the narrow corridor, could not bring their numbers to bear. Their cavalry was useless, their archers ineffective. The Immortals were sent in once more, their reputation on the line. But the Greeks had learned their tactics. They feigned retreat, drawing the Persians forward, then wheeled around and cut them down. The Immortals, once thought invincible, bled and died like any other soldiers. The psychological impact was immense. For the Greeks, hope grew. They had stood against the greatest army in the world for 2 days and prevailed. For the Persians, doubt crept in. If this handful of defenders could resist so long, what would happen when all of Greece rose against them? The narrator draws a modern analogy. It was as if a small, underfunded team had held off a global superpower in battle after battle, proving that the giant could bleed. By the end of the second day, Xerxes was furious. His men were exhausted, his pride wounded. He had expected an easy victory, but instead he faced humiliation. The camera lingers on the Greek camp that night. The men are weary, but their spirits are high. They have done the impossible. Yet, in the shadows, danger stirs. A traitor waits, ready to change the course of the battle. The narrator's voice darkens.
For 2 days the Greeks had defied the impossible. But every fortress has a weakness, and at Thermopylae, that weakness would soon be revealed. For 2 days the Greeks had held the impossible. Xerxes' army, vast as the sea, had broken against the wall of spears. But every fortress has a weakness, and at Thermopylae, that weakness was not stone or steel, it was human. Ephialtes was a local Greek, a man embittered by rejection. Deformed and unable to serve in the Spartan ranks, he carried resentment like a wound. When he saw the Persian gold and the promise of reward, he betrayed his homeland. He revealed to Xerxes a hidden mountain path, a goat trail winding above the cliffs, known only to locals. The Persians seized the opportunity. Under cover of darkness, they sent a detachment of immortals along the path. Guided by Ephialtes, they moved silently through the night, torches dimmed, boots crunching softly on gravel. The Greeks had stationed a small force of Phocians to guard the trail, but when the Persians advanced, the Phocians fell back, retreating to higher ground. The path lay open. The narrator's voice grows heavy. Betrayal is a weapon sharper than any spear, and at Thermopylae, it cut deeper than the Persians ever could.
When word reached Leonidas that the Persians had outflanked them, he knew the end was near. The pass would be lost. The question was not whether they would die, but how. Leonidas called his allies together. He ordered most of them to withdraw, to live and fight another day. But he and his 300 Spartans would remain. They had sworn to defend Greece, and they would keep that oath to the last breath. Yet they were not alone. 700 Thespians refused to leave. They chose to stand beside the Spartans, knowing full well it meant death. Even a contingent of Thebans remained, though their loyalty was uncertain. The narrator lingers on the nobility of the choice. This was not a decision of despair, but of defiance. Leonidas understood that their sacrifice would echo louder than any retreat. By dying here, they would buy time for Greece. By dying here, they would inspire the living. That night, the men prepared for their final dawn. They combed their hair, polished their armor, and sharpened their weapons. To the Spartans, this was not vanity, it was ritual. They would meet death as warriors, unbroken and unafraid. The camera closes on Leonidas, silhouetted against the fire. His face is calm, his eyes steady. He knows his fate, and he accepts it.
The final day began with the thunder of Persian feet. From the front, Xerxes hurled his army once more into the pass. From behind, the immortals descended the mountain path. The Greeks were surrounded. But they did not falter. Instead, they surged forward, driving the Persians back with a fury born of certainty. They knew they would die, and in that knowledge, they found freedom. The fighting was savage. Spears splintered, swords dulled. Men fought with daggers, with fists, with teeth. The air was thick with dust and blood, the cries of the dying echoing against the cliffs. In the chaos, Leonidas fell. His body became the center of the struggle, Spartans fighting desperately to recover it. They would not let their king be taken. 3 times they drove the Persians back. 3 times they reclaimed his body. At last, overwhelmed by sheer numbers, the Greeks retreated to a small hill. There, surrounded on all sides, they made their final stand. Arrows rained down, blotting out the sun. The last defenders fell, their shields shattered, their bodies piled high.
Thermopylae was lost. The Persians marched south, burning towns, advancing toward Athens. The city was evacuated, its people fleeing to the island of Salamis. Xerxes entered Athens in triumph,
but the victory was hollow. For though the Spartans and their allies had fallen, their sacrifice had bought precious time. The Greek fleet, rallied under Themistocles, prepared to strike. At Salamis, the Persians would suffer a crushing naval defeat. At Plataea, the following year, their land forces would be broken. Thermopylae was not the end of Greece, it was the beginning of its salvation. The courage of the few had inspired the many. Across the city-states, men spoke of Leonidas and his 300, of the Thespians who chose death over retreat. Their story became a rallying cry, proof that Persia could be resisted. The narrator draws a parallel. Like the Alamo, like Dunkirk, Thermopylae was a defeat that became a victory, a loss that became a legend.
More than 2,000 years have passed since the hot gates ran red with blood. Yet Thermopylae endures, not as a tale of conquest, but as a symbol of sacrifice. Generals and statesmen have invoked it in speeches. Writers and filmmakers have retold it in countless forms. Soldiers across centuries have drawn inspiration from it. The idea that a small band of warriors could defy an empire resonates across cultures and ages. But Thermopylae is more than myth. It is a reminder of the power of choice. Leonidas and his men chose to stand when retreat was possible. They chose to fight when surrender was easier. They chose to die so that others might live free. The narrator reflects, Thermopylae teaches us that courage is not the absence of fear, but the mastery of it. That freedom is not given, but earned. That sometimes the battles we lose echo louder than the ones we win. The camera pans across the modern memorial, the mountains rising in the background, the sea glinting in the sun. The final words are spoken slowly, reverently. Go tell the Spartans, stranger passing by, that here, obedient to their laws, we lie. Thank you for joining us on this adventure. If you enjoyed this exploration of Southeast Asia, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share your thoughts in the comments below. Your journey is just beginning, and we can't wait to see where it takes you next.